Okay. What's up, everybody? Good morning. Welcome to a Tuesday edition of Morning Scone, presented by Brock, the Baton Rouge Clinic, Hudco Roofing, hudcoroofing.com, Restored Motions, restoredmotions.com, and prochargeev.com. Okay, y'all. Hope your Tuesday's off to a great start. Already got my workout in, back home, showered, and getting ready for the day. Drew's off of school this week, so as I mentioned, if you were here yesterday, do a little bit longer show. They don't have to be like hard out of here at 8 a.m. Central, so got a little time. How about a really newsy day on Monday? Let's run through some of it. Of greatest significance, Jayden Daniels opts out of the bowl game. I think we knew and expected that was going to happen. I think I've been telling you all that for several weeks. And not that you all didn't know or think that would happen anyway, but it was kind of always the assumption internally was Jayden would opt out. He would go to California, work with his quarterbacks coach, and get ready for Senior Bowl combine. So no big surprise there. And honestly, as much as I would have loved to have seen Jayden play in the bowl game, selfishly, it's because I just love to watch him, play in an LSU uniform again. Probably for the best for LSU. Winning or losing the bowl game is of less consequence. Let me say it this way: if I told you Jayden could play, you could win the bowl game, but it's going to set Nussmeier's development back, or Jayden could opt out and maybe you win the bowl game, maybe you lose the bowl game, but Nussmeier gets 15 practices, gets to start the bowl game, prepare as the starter, gets that whole experience, everything. Like, it's, there's a pretty obvious choice, I think, anyway, which is, Jayden opting out is probably the right thing, because bowl games aren't what they were. They don't matter. They're glorified exhibitions that are not a reward. It's why guys opt out of them, and it's why fans don't like to go to them anymore. And it's what it is. So let's have the opportunity to see Nussmeier get 15 extra practices with all the reps with the ones. I mean, to take the huddle, to go through all of the play calls, all of the reads, all of the everything, over 15 practices, all of the first team reps. And then to prepare for the bowl game as the starter. That's a great thing for LSU for next year, which is more important than winning or losing the ReliaQuest Bowl. It's basically like another spring practice. You get these 15 practices, the bowl game, and then you go into spring with your spring practices and a spring game, and then you go in a fall camp, and Nuss is your guy. So probably better for LSU. The other bit of news, A.J. Swan committed to LSU on Monday. So A.J. Swan is the former Vanderbilt quarterback. He's from the state of Georgia, spent 2 years at Vandy, started 12 games over 2 years, played in 15 games, thrown for 2,700 yards and 22 touchdowns. So he's played a lot of football. He's played way more football than Nussmeier has. He's started 12 games in the SEC. And I'll say it again for everybody who pushed back against the idea of getting a quarterback out of the transfer portal. I told you this. And this isn't a victory lap, pat on the back. It's just, you got to understand the line of thinking. For everybody who said, don't bring in a transfer, roll with the ones you got to develop Ricky Collins, you got to ride with Nussmeier, he's earned all that stuff. None of that is disqualified because you're bringing in a transfer. You can still develop Ricky Collins. Nussmeier's likely still going to be your starter, but there's no reason not to bring in a guy who is now your most experienced quarterback on the roster. Yes, you bring that guy in. What if Nussmeier isn't great? What if Nussmeier turns his ankle? What if he is sick? What if he gets targeted? Would like any of those scenarios that could unfold? You want the redshirt freshman who's never played? Or do you want a guy who's started 12 games in the SEC and thrown for 3,000 yards and 22 touchdowns and all that stuff? And maybe Collins beats out Swan, but wouldn't you rather drive the competition? It just doesn't, there's no logical answer. There's no logical reason against bringing in a transfer quarterback. None. And if your thought is, well, so-and-so may leave. So, guys leave. That's what happens. You can't stop it. That player could leave anyway. What if that player leaves anyway and you didn't get a transfer? Now you're really screwed. You're 2018 screwed when all you have is Burrow and redshirt freshman Miles Brennan. That's it. Because McMillan and Narcisse leave, and all you have is 2 quarterbacks. No sense. So Jayden opts out. AJ Swan commits. And then Kyron Lacey announced he's coming back, which is great news for LSU. That's a huge get. So Kyron will be a fifth-year player. He'll take advantage of the COVID year. And y'all, Kyron's biggest issues at times, buried on the depth chart behind 2 potential first-rounders with Malik and Brian Thomas, but then also drops. Well, guess what? This is your money year. This is your money year. Go do everything possible. Catch 10,000, the summer of 10,000 catches. Go do that. Like, go become the best receiver in America in your money year. And you get Kyron, Xavier Thomas, Chris Hilton, Aaron Anderson, all the talented young guys, and that receiver room looks really good now. So, okay. Let's say some good mornings. YouTube, please smash that like button, subscribe to the channel. Facebook, please like the Matt Scone page, share the post. William Moore, Ethan Davidson, Gorilla, James McKinney, Barry Jocelyn, good morning. Thanks for your message, Barry. Great to, very much appreciate you shooting me that message on the text line. Duck Hunter 94, good morning. Gorilla, only the true ones stay through the off season. Jacob Thompson, good morning. Not sold on Nuss as a starting quarterback at LSU because to me I feel like he would play as the Nuss that played when he went into Bama after Jayden got hurt. Your thoughts? Well, Jacob, listen, you don't need to be sold on Nussmeier as the starter. But what you have to accept is that LSU is rolling with him as their one. Now, he's going to have to keep that job and hold off AJ Swan, and you don't have a better option at this point because you're not going to go out and spend 7 figures in NIL money to go get a top tier transfer quarterback. Because ultimately, here's how LSU's looking at it. Would you rather roll with Nussmeier or go spend $1 million on Will Howard from Kansas State or Cam Ward from Washington State? You know what I mean? Like Riley Leonard. Where's the... Do those players have more game experience than Nussmeier? Yes. Is it that dramatically different? Do you think Nussmeier can play at that level? If the answer is yes, then you roll with the guy who's been here. That you know, that you've seen at practice every day, that knows your locker room, that knows your roster, that you have confidence in. So, like Dante Moore, who LSU recruited, who spent the freshman at UCLA, committed to Oregon yesterday. Like, Dante Moore played as a freshman at UCLA this year. It wasn't always great. I mean, it was a very Jekyll and Hyde freshman season. Would you rather spend $1 million on Dante Moore after, they just added Dylan Gabriel from Oklahoma to Oregon? Like, or would you rather roll with Nussmeier, who you've had on campus, knows your system, knows your roster, knows your culture, personnel, all that stuff, who's been here for 3 years, going into his 4th year? Like, that's what they're weighing. Like, if there was a no doubt slam dunk, home run, all that sort of stuff, or if Nussmeier had transferred last year and all you had was a couple of young quarterbacks, would you bring in a more experienced quarterback to try to win the job? Yeah. But you don't have to be sold on Nussmeier, but you have to accept the fact that he's your best option right now, at least going in. Truth Hurts, good morning. Taylor Hudson, good morning, Matt. You feel like the transfer quarterback is going to be good competition for Nuss. Could he win out the job? Don't know much about him. Could he win the job? Sure. Look, A.J. Swan wasn't great at Vanderbilt. But Vanderbilt stinks. Their roster isn't anywhere near what LSU's was. A lot of y'all like to point out that Jayden had 10 touchdowns and 10 interceptions his third year at Arizona State, which is true. And he was on a terrible football team. Dysfunctional, on the verge of sanctions, opt-outs, no talent, all that sort of stuff. So surround A.J. Swan with a great offensive line, an NFL running back, NFL receivers, an NFL tight end. How does it look? Probably a lot better than it looked at Vanderbilt. So, could he go in there and compete and win the job? Sure. I mean, I'll tell you, look, at Ole Miss, they brought in Spencer Sanders to beat out Jackson Dart. They brought it, like, when Walker Howard committed, he already knew Spencer Sanders was coming. And the expectation at Ole Miss was that Jackson Dart was going to leave. And he didn't. Jackson Dart stayed, competed, won the job, and Spencer Sanders, who transferred as a senior from Oklahoma State, who was a 3-year starter at Oklahoma State, sat. So, competition's a good thing, man. Bubba Smith, Scott Barnes, good morning. Randy Smith, good morning. Jayden's opt-out is big. Jayden can focus on the combine. Sloan Denbrock Kelly can focus on Garrett. Deborah Coward, good morning. Jim Arsenault. Carrie Hughes, good morning. Sorry, Raheem Alem passed away. Carrie, I haven't seen that from any credible news source, but I did see it like all over Facebook that a lot of like fraternity brothers and friends were posting condolences to Raheem Alem. For those who don't remember, that was Chad Jones's older brother, who his name was Al Jones, and he changed his name to Raheem Alem. Played at LSU. He was on that 07 championship team. It was kind of that 7, 8, 9 era. Condolences to his family. Kent Hammers, hey Dad, good morning. Dre Marceau, happy holidays, Matt. When do you think we see staff changes? Dre, I've said this for weeks and weeks, man, and I'll repeat it because I guess not everybody listens. I know not everybody listens every day and hears everything. What I've been told is that changes were not going to come until after the early signing day, which is on Wednesday. I'll say it again. I believe you'll have no less than 2 defensive staff changes. My opinion is that Corey Raymond will be back at LSU. There are people on staff and internally that want him back and are pushing for him back. Ultimately, Brian Kelly has to make it happen, but I think that will happen. That part is my opinion, that I think Corey Raymond will come back. I think you could certainly see a change at defensive line coach where you had a lot of shuffling last year. I think there's a real possibility that Jimmy Lindsey could stay in an off-field analyst role, and you bring in a new defensive line coach. Everybody mentions Bo Davis, and I am not ruling out the possibility of Matt House being gone, although everyone seems to think, because it hasn't happened yet, that he's staying. I think there's a real possibility that Matt House could go back to the NFL, and that wouldn't happen, however, until NFL jobs start coming open. So, you have another few weeks before the NFL season ends, and that would coincide with LSU finishing up the bowl game. And so I think there's a real possibility that after the bowl game, Matt House could be back in the NFL and LSU could be in the market for a new defensive coordinator. I think that's a real possibility. Patrick Fluitt, what's going on? Let's go get Tackett. Yeah, so for those that missed it, Tackett Curtis, who was from Manny up in North Louisiana, one of the top linebackers in the country. He was, I think, maybe the number 5 player in the state of Louisiana a year ago. Signed with USC. Never considered LSU. I mean, never even gave LSU a shot. He jumped into the transfer portal. I think there is certainly a possibility he could want to come closer to home. I think, obviously, with Alex Grinch, the DC there at USC, being fired, you have not only a new defensive coordinator, but potentially a new system that maybe he doesn't fit. So that's a real possibility. I think LSU should absolutely be in the mix there for Tackett Curtis. You need linebackers. I mean, that was so evident this year that you need off-ball linebackers. You brought in Omar Spades, who candidly didn't play as well as we all thought he would, coming in as a guy that was all Pac-12 at Oregon State. You tried to move Harold Perkins to off-ball linebacker. That clearly didn't work. You have Greg Penn there, who is a thumper in the middle and a guy that's going to go get you 80 to 100 tackles. And I know everybody's really high on Whit Weeks, as you should be. And West Weeks is back as well, but you have an opportunity to add a young guy like that, who's super talented, from Louisiana, bring him home. Yes, I mean, absolutely. Brandon Hoyt, bringing in a guy who drives competition. I think it's a genius thing. It's not only just driving competition, Brandon. It is that, but it's also a safety net, and you can't underestimate this. Like, look at what happened to Jordan Travis, man. Look at Alabama at the beginning of this year. They were riding with Milroe, and he stunk. And they went to Ty Simpson, and he wasn't good. And they went back to Milroe, and it worked. But even Bama, they brought in, the kid from Notre Dame, Buckner, and it didn't work. But, like, you give yourself options, man. Of course you do. Devin Kelly's Logan Diggs made his decision yet. Seems like his stock is about as high as it's going to get. I disagree with you, Devin. I mean, and he did spend part of this season injured. You come back for another year. Remember, he was a rotational guy at Notre Dame for 2 seasons. He emerged as your best guy this year, but still was largely overshadowed by Jayden and those receivers. I think Logan Diggs would definitely stand to benefit from another year. But no decision. By the way, we do have media availability at practice today. So media gets to go in and watch about 45 minutes of practice today at 10:30 this morning. So around, noonish is when you could probably expect to hear some practice reports coming out and some video and pictures from practice. So I'll give you I'll be there. I'll give you a full report on AFR today. So just as a heads up. Ron St. Pierre, good morning. Rocky, Matt, Swan has a big arm. He's equal opportunity in terms of who makes the receptions, however. See, that's not exactly true. So in 2 years, 22 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, nearly 3,000 passing yards. I mean, Nussmeier's got half the attempts, half the yards, half the touchdowns, and only 3 fewer interceptions at 6 interceptions. So, 9 interceptions in 2 seasons, I'm not telling you that's great. I mean, but Jayden had 4 this year. So think of it, 9 interceptions and 12 starts. Basically, think of Swan's 2 seasons combined as kind of 1 season. He started 12 times. So 12 starts, 3,700 passing yards, 22 touchdowns, 9 picks. I mean, it pales in comparison to what Jayden did this year, but if you get that out of your quarterback at LSU, I wish the 9 picks would be lower for sure, but that's fewer than an interception per game. Barry Day, good morning. Josh DeVilliers, good morning. Will Wade has McNeese balling. Epic game this past Sunday. Electric atmosphere. And next up is Michigan. Okay. let's see, his Weeks are starting middle linebacker next year. Yeah, I mean, I expect Greg Penn will be back, and Omar Spates is gone, so I think your rotation there, you'll have Penn and Weeks inside. Yes. Sean Bennett, Nuss train. I thought it was the Nuss bus. Are we going with the Nuss train or the Nuss bus? Matthew Denicola, good morning, Matt. Love the competition. Swan brings the quarterback room. Hopefully it'll bring a fire under Nuss and show his true potential. I know he has. Leon Williams, good morning. One day till signing day. Yes, sir. Irfan Sayad, good morning. Barry, let's see how Nuss does with all the weapons. Astro Thunder, good morning. Ethan Davidson. Any news about the football coaching staff? I get that everyone wants to know. I'm just laughing because I answer it 10 times a day, every day. Jaleel Dean, morning, Matt. I'm planning on going to Tiger State. I've said the coaching staff answer so many times now that everybody watching could probably just put in the comments what the answer is. Jaleel Dean, morning, Matt. I'm planning on going to Tiger Stadium for the first time next season with my mom and dad. We're debating which game to go to, Oklahoma or Bama. Which one do you think? Bama. Bama's always just the default. It's going to be awesome. It always is. So, Bama. Irfan Sayad, what are your thoughts about Dennis Allen taking the victory lap after Carr's 218 yards performance? Yeah, I talked about it yesterday in AFR. I believe when a player plays well, you give him his kudos. And Derek Carr was efficient on Sunday. 23 of 28 for 218 and 3 touchdowns. If that guy shows up every week, the Saints are a much better team. But he hasn't showed up every week, which is in part why the Saints are a 500 football team against one of the easiest schedules in the history of the franchise. So I would say be careful, because if you're going to backpat after a good performance, then be prepared for the criticism after a bad performance. And we all know, based on Derek Carr's history, the bad performances are coming. Jacob Willis, good morning. Wendell Norman, Wacky Chris, Daniel Holden, morning, Matt. Finally able to catch a live stream after being in North Carolina this past week. Glad to have you, Daniel. Thank you. Louis Malhoy, morning. How about the crazy Notre Dame fans thinking they're getting Denbrock? Also, any truth about Michigan's defensive coordinator might leave for LSU? So a few things. Number one, the Denbrock to A&M stuff was very, very real. And he was in Arkansas on that Monday, Tuesday for the Broyles Award. And the conversations with A&M had been ongoing, and they were going to make him the highest paid offensive coordinator in the country. He was going to get about $1 million a year raise. I mean, his LSU salary was 1.4. I think it scaled like to 1.5, 1.4, 1.5, 1.6 over the 3 years. And A&M was going to pay him mid-twos. So he was going to get about $1 million a year raise. And resources and a lot of other stuff. LSU, I mean, it was a thing where, as it was explained to me, those conversations went late into the night, Tuesday into Wednesday morning, and Mike Denbrock was planning on getting on a plane Wednesday at College Station, Wednesday morning. And LSU came back and made him the offer that allowed him to stay. Now, I don't think Mike wants to leave. I don't think I'm talking out of turn here. I don't think his family likes it here. He's got a young son, his wife and his young son, and they moved from Cincinnati, and I know that was tough, and um, there's something to be said for, I mean, and this isn't just for coaches. I think everyone watching this or listening can understand this if you've ever moved for a job. Like, you can understand this. It's very difficult when you pack up and move to a new city. You leave your friends, you go to a new place that's unfamiliar, your children leave their school and their friends and have to adjust to something new. And it's just, it's not easy. Like, it's not just, oh, I'm going to take the better job or the more money. Like, there's a lot of things to consider. So, I think Denbrock needed LSU to give him a reason to stay. And ultimately, they did. Now, the Board of Supervisors meeting, if I'm not mistaken, is Friday. Unless it was this past Friday. I think it's this coming Friday. The board meeting is... Forgive me. The last board meeting was Friday, December the 8th. So it was last Friday. I didn't see any reports on it. So last Friday was the 15th. 2 Fridays ago. I didn't see any reports, but presumably they would have ratified Denbrock's contract. So my guess is there's a public records request out from the advocate and all to get the terms of the deal, unless if they're pushing it to the February meeting. But so we'll know what ultimately Denbrock got, but we know that it's going to be more than he was making before. So what they gave him to stay, I don't think it's going to be what A&M was offering, but they made it worthwhile to stay. So anyway, that's a long way of answering your question, Lewis. But because he signed this extension with LSU, I don't see him leaving now for Notre Dame. Truth about Michigan defensive coordinator might leave for LSU. Well, first, the LSU job has to be open. And, I think sorry, I had to crack my neck. One second, my apologies, y'all. As far as defensive coordinator, again, Matt House would have to leave or find a new job, which, again, I'll repeat, is very much a possibility. Like, I know everyone has assumed here that because it hasn't happened, it won't happen, but I'll continue to tell you. I mean, look at precedent. A year ago, they moved on from Polian, and that didn't happen until February 21st. It was after the February signing day. I think Matt House came from the NFL, and I'm confident in saying one of the reasons he came from the NFL to be a college defensive coordinator was because he had eyes on being a college head coach, and maybe he doesn't love the recruiting part and maybe prefers the NFL lifestyle. And if that's the case, he could go back into the NFL. And that could happen after the NFL season. And so that isn't for another 3 more weeks. So, of course, LSU will have played its bowl game by then. So you could have a change. You're kind of connected on. So, yes, I still think there's a very real possibility that Matt House is not back. Now, Michigan's defensive coordinator who you asked about is Jesse Minter. And I think he replaced Don Brown, if I'm not mistaken. But he does have NFL experience. He does have plenty of college experience as well. And he, before he went to Michigan, was at Vanderbilt as their defensive coordinator. So he's been in the SEC as well. So it's not a bad thought. I mean, Michigan's defense is really good. So, yes, but I don't know that I think almost anything right now would feel better than what you went through this year. Hey, do me a favor. Please smash that like button if you're there on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel, Facebook. Please like the Matt Scone page, share the post. We appreciate you for being there. As always, shout out to Brock, the Baton Rouge Orthopedic Clinic, Hudco Roofing. You need an orthopedist. Brock, they're the best. Need a roof? Give a shout. Hudco Roofing. Thanks to everybody. A lot of y'all have reached out. Some of you who I've recognized the names here today. You, a family member, a neighbor, friend, co-worker. If you've got a roof issue, let them know. Do business with someone you know. Hudco Roofing, HudcoRoofing.com. You can always email me directly, Matt@HudcoRoofing.com, Matt@HudcoRoofing.com. Let's see, Sylvia Scott, thank you for your professional input each and every morning. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you, Sylvia. Appreciate you for watching. Jaleel, do you think if Nuss doesn't look good in the bowl game, they go after another quarterback in the portal? No, I do not. Don Tecco, Gene, Joshua Rector, Spurge, good morning. Robert Scott, Uncle Hudat, good morning. Great news about Jayden sitting out the bowl game. Let's go. Gundam, morning, Matt. Question, chances of getting Jayden Daniels still slim. For the Saints, it's slimmer with every win because the Saints continue to lower their draft spot. So if Jayden is going to be a potential top 10 pick, the Saints aren't picking in the top 10, so they have to trade into the top 10. And I'm going to continue to tell you what I've said all along. In 56 years, the Saints have used a first-round pick on a quarterback one time. They committed $100 million guaranteed to Derek Carr. What makes you think they're going to use a first-round pick on a quarterback? They're going to use that first-round pick on someone to help that quarterback win. A receiver, a tight end, an offensive lineman. Like, that's what they're going to do. I'd be stunned if they did anything different. Robert Scott, worried about nothing. Nuss is going to show out, think Matt Flynn. That's not exactly apples to apples. We have seen quarterbacks step into the starting role for the first time and play very well, no doubt. But Flynn had played a lot of football. Flynn started at Peach Bowl against Miami in 2005. He was a fifth-year player in 2007 by that point. And Flynn is one of the smartest football people that I personally know. I think the real question with Nussmeier isn't his physical ability, it's his decision-making and processing. If he figures that out, then yes, I agree, he could be really good. But he's got to figure that out. Jesse Brown, time frame on Coach McMahon getting the basketball team on a winning track. Jesse, I think it's pretty obvious it isn't going to happen this year. Look, you have to punt last year. Remember, it was almost like Matt McMahon inherited a team that had the death penalty. When he got here, literally every scholarship player, all 13, either went pro or hit the transfer portal. He literally did not have any scholarship players on his roster. So last year was a total punt. And all that while you had the threat of sanctions looming over you, last year was a punt, total. So this is more like year one. He got some good players in the portal. Carlos Stewart. It's good to see Jalen Cook eligible. Jordan Wright. Will Baker's playing well. This will be a team that was better than last year, but they're still not going to be good. You've got to get your high school recruits in and get high school recruiting rolling. And he's got a good class committed right now for next year. So I think next year is when you have to see like real legitimate improvement. But the flip side of it too, y'all, remember, they gave Matt McMahon a 7-year contract, which starts at 2.6 and escalates to 3.2. And they had to give him a 7-year contract because it was the only way you were going to get anybody to take that job with sanctions looming. You had to give them the guarantee of longevity to work through all of these issues. So It's not fun. It's not going to be easy. And I understand the impatience. But anybody who's like, hey, they're going to fire McMahon. No, they're not. They gave him a 7-year contract. LSU's not in the business of paying basketball coaches $10 million not to coach. Football buyouts, okay. Basketball, no. So you were gonna play out the string with McMahon, and here before you even get into conference play in year 2 is way too premature to start talking about that. So look, this year is going to feel more like a year 1. If somehow they manage to fight their way into the NIT, that'd be great. I don't know if I believe that. It feels almost like last year you punted. This year you just want to see some culture and building blocks, and hopefully next year you get to winning. Trivia Carter, Gorilla, would it make sense to cap NIL spending limit for universities? Cannot do it. I've literally talked to attorneys. If they ever try to cap NIL, there would be lawsuits filed. Their lawsuits are already drafted. They'd be filed immediately. That's like saying, hey, Gorilla, we're going to cap what you can make at your job. You just can't do it in a capitalistic society. It's free market capitalism. You cannot limit what people make. If I want to pay you what I feel is the fair rate or wage, who's to tell me I can't pay you that? So no, they will never cap NIL. Henry Price, good morning. My question is, why does everyone seem to have forgotten that the defense was complete garbage? Where are the defensive moves? Talked about the coaching staff already like 4 times this morning. I'm not going to repeat myself again. Just scroll back in the episode, or go to literally any episode over the last 3 weeks, and I've answered that question. Brett DeGrow, Cortland Jacob, Jason H, Guy Brooks, Christian, Ransom Antoine, Fire Tipped, good morning. Daniel Roof, morning, Matt. What position do you think is most needed for LSU in the portal? Secondary. And then I'll tell you defensive line if depending on what happens with Smith, Wingo, and Guillory. If they come back, I think you're good. If you lose those guys to the draft, you are really thin. Bubba Tatum, any update on defensive coaching staff change? It's been a while since you said anything about it. Thank you, Bubba. Abner Neal, Brian Wynn, Guy Brooks. I was pleasantly surprised only Jayden opted out of the bowl game. Lacey's coming back to be wide receiver 1. Guy Brooks, to be very clear, I'm not sure if that's the only opt-out. It's the only known opt-out, but I will tell you this. We have media availability today at practice at 10:30 this morning, and everybody's going to be taking roll. Like, we know the guys we're all looking for. We're looking for Smith, Wingo, Guillory. We're looking for Logan Diggs. We're looking for all those guys. And by the way, just because they may play in the bowl game doesn't necessarily mean they're coming back next year. So, player interviews on Thursday, so we'll get a much better sense of that this week. Hunter Broadhead, Cortland Jacob, I can understand waiting on House to keep continuity through the bowl game. Ray Langwell, morning, Matt. Hope your day is off to a great start. Cliff Nelson, morning, Uncle Scone. If LSU is blown out Wisconsin, do we see Collins play? Or is it, let's see you play a whole game for the Nuss Bus? Cliff, that's hard to answer, man. I mean, you know as well as I do. We see how the game flow goes, right? If LSU's up like they were last year on Purdue, then yeah, late in the game, I think you could run Collins out there. Bailey C, will LSU's NIL improve the further we get from Coach O's firing? Maybe we need time for those big pockets to fill back up. Maybe, Bailey, but I'll tell you this. I think of greater consequence would be results. You know who's moved to spend? Look at the schools that are spending in NIL. Traditional powers that have fallen on hard times, that are trying to get back. Florida State, Texas, Nebraska, Tennessee, USC. I mean, I hate to say it this way, let LSU slip a couple seasons, then I think you'll have motivated boosters ready. Another part of it, man, you just got to be organized, and LSU hasn't been with their collective. Let's see, get a few more in here. Oh, man. Let's see, Don said, Matt, how do you see the Tigers' defense improving next season based on the moves we made so far this offseason? Incomplete, Don. I definitely want to see what they do in the portal defensively. They got to add at least a corner, maybe two, and then we'll see who comes back on the defensive line, and then also the staff changes, which I'll continue to tell you this. In case you haven't heard me say it, I believe there will be at least 2 defensive staff changes, and I'm not ruling out the possibility of Matt House being gone. Cortland, Ole Miss isn't doing it with a handful of people with deep pockets. It's their fans giving to the collective. LSU fans expecting the couple rich guys to do all the work is why we are trailing. That's not exactly true, Cortland. It's not that Ole Miss fans have been lining up to fund their collective. It's that they have been organized among their boosters to fund their collective, and they've spent wisely. And sometimes you have deep-pocketed boosters that just you don't know about. Like sometimes you know about very vocal boosters, right? Like, you know about Phil Knight. You know about old Yellowwood. Ole Miss doesn't necessarily have that like LSU, that 1 or 2 really big name billionaire boosters who fund everything. But that doesn't mean you don't have dudes worth tens of millions of dollars that can give $250,000 here, $100,000 there. That doesn't mean they don't have 50 Gordons. You know what I mean? And if you have tapped into your 50 Gordons to all fund the collective, you know, or maybe not even 50, maybe it's 15. If you had 5 that were as motivated as he is, it's a big deal. Henry Price, want to get back to the fact that offense sells tickets, defense wins championships, ask Saban. I don't know, Henry. Nick Saban, sure, when he got blown out by Clemson in the national championship game, he sure was willing to adjust his offense and bring in Lane Kiffin, wasn't he? I mean, the last national championship that Alabama won in 2020, their pass defense was 70th in the country. 70th. Carter Harris, more to Matt. Lacey and the state transfer could be another duo. What do you think? Yeah. What I think is LSU has a deep, talented receiving room, and somebody will step up. My friend Michael, more to Matt. About to go to work. Want to stop in and say, thank you, Michael. Hope you have a great day. Brent Chisholm, more to Matt, like the Swan choice, not a big name, but all the tools to develop. And in SEC, it's must to have second quarterback who can step in. Do NFL head coaches ever get hired away by other teams? It is super rare because there's only 32 head coaching jobs in the NFL. If you have one of them, you keep it as long as you can. We've seen instances in the past, like with where head coaches were traded. John Gruden, when he went from Oakland to Tampa. It happened with Bill Belichick when he ended up in New England. He was going to take the Jets job. So it happens. It's just very rare. Eric said, more to Matt. I remember saying 104.5 didn't go remote in Orlando because Sunday game made it logistically difficult. Same issue for Vegas. Yes, except that the opponent in Vegas, the venue, is going to be so big that we can make it profitable by doing shows there on Friday and maybe even specialty show on Saturday, stuff like that. The Orlando trip this year there just weren't as many LSU fans that made the trip. There's a lot of LSU fans going to Vegas. Anthony Cortello, someone offers you $1 million more a year, you have to talk to them. Oh, that was back about Denbrock. Oh man, I'm behind. Okay, let's see. Weston Weaver, let's see, Cortland. To be fair, they had Manning for 10 years and Breeze for 14. That's at least 20 seasons. You don't take a quarterback first round. They had their eyes on Mahomes and lost him. Cortland, Green Bay took a quarterback twice in the first round when they had a franchise quarterback with Aaron Rodgers and with Jordan Love. So just because you have a quarterback doesn't mean you don't draft one. We saw New England draft quarterbacks when they had Tom Brady all those years. They used a second round pick on Jimmy Garoppolo. So happens. Mahomes was a first round pick when Kansas City had Alex Smith. They had a starter who I think made a Pro Bowl that season. Go Rowe, is Tackett Curtis a must get out of the portal? Hard to say must get, but boy, it'd be great to get another off-ball linebacker just because you were not great there this year. And that's an understatement. Chad Whaley, we need cornerback bad. I agree. But again, I will continue to throw up the asterisk. J.K. Johnson's coming back off of injury, and we don't know what he is or will be. He could be a legit number one. We don't know. We never got to see him this year because he got injured in fall camp. So J.K. Johnson coming back. If Zy Alexander rehabs his ACL quickly enough and is able to get back, Zy wasn't an All-American, but is he a good number two? Could he be a serviceable nickel? Yeah. And then see how the younger guys develop. And if you bring in DeCameron Richardson, you're bringing in a starter at corner. Yeah, you'd be better. Mark Allen, LOL, the coaching questions have to be getting old. Well, Mark, it's just that I keep answering the same question over and over and over again. It would be one thing if there was development, but I keep telling you, they're not making any staff changes until after the early signing period, which is Wednesday. And then we'll see if they wait till after the bowl game or whatever they decide to do. Hey, Matt. My wife told me Quincy Wiggins entered the transfer portal, committed to Colorado. Is that true? I know he hit the portal. I don't know that he committed to Colorado yet. Yep, there you go. Committed to Colorado yesterday. Good call. I didn't see that. That must have been yesterday. Either while it was on air or later. But this isn't time stamped. Anyway, yes. So Colorado, good get for Coach Prime. Mark Allen, do you have any update on Corey Raymond? Went to the gas station this morning. Michael Ryder, good afternoon from Poland. Chances of a repeat in baseball. Michael, look, once you get there, it's hard to win, but I think it is very realistic to have an expectation of LSU being back in Omaha this year. Henry Price, not the defensive staff. In the portal, we see movement all over the country, just not here. They're working on it. We mentioned Cameron Richardson at corner. I don't know that you need to add defensive line again, depending on who stays, who goes. Tackett Curtis would be a good add. But just keep in mind, man, this isn't going to be a year where LSU adds double-digit numbers in the portal. It's going to be, where are the spots that you feel like you need a starter or quality depth? And that's where they're going to add a piece here or there. Roy Babineau, Matt, seems like McNeese men's basketball team is doing good this year. They are. Adam Parker, good morning. Jacob Hibbard, good morning. Can't help that no staff changes on D is hurting us with portal. Would you rather play for Pete Golding or Matt House? That's just not it, Jacob. I'll say it again. Ole Miss has been really organized with their collective. Hat tip to them. And Walter Nolan, who I believe they're going to land Walter Nolan, defensive lineman from Texas A&M, is from Olive Branch, Mississippi. So it's not that dissimilar from a kid coming back home to Louisiana to want to play here. So LSU is more apathetic to NIL. No, Bailey, it's not that they're apathetic. It's, I don't know if you're talking about like internally or if you're talking about boosters. I think boosters look at it like they have been milked for an awful lot. And the challenging thing is, what do you spend resources on? I mean, if you keep knocking on the same door to pay coaches' salaries, coaches' buyouts, facility upgrades, all that sort of stuff, and then now you go to those people like, we need to pay the players too, it's like, hold on. So I think, like, my opinion is, slow down on facility upgrades and pump that money into your collective instead. Because what would you rather have? A beautiful facility or great players in a so-so facility? And there was a time before NIL where your facilities absolutely mattered because you signed 25 guys, you wanted to sign the 25 best players, and there was no NIL. And so the allure was play for championships, win awards, great facilities, coaching, all that stuff. And that's part of it now. Still, it's part of it. But for some guys, NIL is going to be a bigger part of it. Legendary. Have you seen the lineman Dion has been getting in the portal? I have. It's not surprising that Dion's going to want to get guys to go play for him. I kind of laugh at the criticism of Dion this year that Colorado won 4 games. Like, he quadrupled their win total of a year ago. They were 1-11. They won 4 games this year. Should have beaten Stanford. Should have gotten 5 for sure. But that's an incredible turnaround. Louis Tangi, Matt, what do you think of Jordan Travis? Potential steal. Who in the top 3 quarterbacks going to be disappointment? I don't see the Drake May stuff. I don't get it. Maybe it's just I'm scarred by watching Mitchell Trubisky, another big-bodied, strong-arm quarterback from North Carolina who didn't play a ton but had the physical tools. Could Jordan Travis be a steal? Yeah. You get that dude on day 2. 2nd, 3rd round pick, yeah. Trenton, thoughts on Tackett Curtis entering the portal. Talked about that a bit. I was told it's very likely he wants to come closer to home, which would be great, and you need off-ball linebackers. I'm just skeptical because that dude didn't give LSU a look coming out of high school. Like, never considered LSU. Brian Jones, do you see Aaron Anderson coming back? I do. Remember, if he transfers, he has to sit out. So he's already used his one-time transfer. Unless if that court ruling allows everyone to transfer as many times as they want. Brian Jones is Denver Harris entering the portal. Again, another guy that would have to sit out if he does, but it would probably serve him well to go to the lower level and just play, just get on the field somewhere. Jeremy Brentmeyer, I don't get to follow LSU and radio as much lately. Love listening in the mornings to catch up on everything. I appreciate it. Cool, Jeremy. Appreciate you being here. Brian Jones is up with Dominic McKinley. Pushed back he was supposed to sign with A&M on Wednesday. Pushed back to the February signing period, and he is taking an official visit to LSU in January. So, good stuff. Okay, y'all, do me a favor, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel. If you're new there on YouTube, please subscribe up to the channel, Facebook, like the page, share the post. Shout out to Brock and Hudco. By the way, the Hudco link I have pinned today, I've mentioned this before. That's the Google review page. I mentioned this a few months back, but just thought I'd circle back today. Google did a weird thing where they split up our Google reviews with the Bossier office and the Baton Rouge office. So all of the prior reviews all were, say with Bossier, so Baton Rouge went to like literally 0 reviews. So if you could take us just a quick second, click that link and leave a 5-star Google review. That would be so helpful for us for SEO and all that sort of stuff. But I'd really appreciate it if you just click, like literally just when we're done, click the link that's pinned, tap 5 reviews, 5-star. That would be awesome. I'd appreciate it greatly. Okay. Y'all have a great day. Thanks so much for watching. LSU Daily is live if you want to check that out. And then AFR3. All right, y'all. Have a great one. Peace.